Oh, all right. So, one of the things about when you are being a teacher, you have students sometimes that they get really close with you and they want to stay in touch with you and they want to, keep up with what's going on in life and whatever else. And I really genuinely love my students. And I like to give them advice and I like to tell them, how to go about things and some of the mistakes I've made and how to avoid some of those. And I hope and pray that they listen. And one of my students is very young. She's 18, okay? And she came up to me and she was being really strange. And I said, "What's going on with you? What do you need to tell me? Why are you standing here just, what's going on?" Because I could tell something was wrong. And she goes, "I want to tell you something, Miss Ashworth." And I said, "Okay, yeah, go ahead. Tell me what's going on." And she told me, "Well, I'm pregnant." And I couldn't help it. My face gives away everything. I can't help it. When somebody says something to me, I'm easy to read. And I started getting teary-eyed. And I said, "Oh no, it's going to be so hard." And I realized that was not a good response. I probably shouldn't have said that because she started crying, really crying. I mean, like bawling her eyes out. And I immediately started hugging her and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I'm just trying to be honest with you, honey. I had my daughter at 17 and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm still struggling to make up for all the things that have happened in my life because of, having a child so young, and it's just going to be difficult, and I just want to be honest with you." And she said, I know, And I said, "Well, what are you going to do about school and this and that, and I'm thinking these things, seriously, we need to plan these things out because a lot of people don't even know how to go about these things. A lot of people don't know the hardships that come with being a teen mom. You watch these shows, you watch all of these things that happen, in the world, and everybody has a skewed idea of how easy it is to have children, and it's not. It's the most difficult thing you'll ever do in your life if you have children. It is not, just, "Oh, look at my beautiful little baby doll." It's not that. It is a whole nother human being, and this whole other human being is going to have thoughts and emotions and feelings and all sorts of things that they are going to grow and develop over time, and everything that you do, your whole entire time raising them, could essentially make or break that person. And I'm seeing that now. I'm 37 and my daughter is 19, and I am dealing with all of the repercussions of, working too much, not being home with her like I should have been, not choosing the right man to be her father, and, all of the other emotional trauma and hardships and things that are happening that I didn't think that my daughter was going to have because I thought I was going to be different, My mother had me at 18. She had my sister at 16, and she was not ready to have kids at all. And my mom did a lot of these things that I thought were horrible. She worked all the time. She's gone all the time. I never saw her growing up. And I didn't have that relation. I don't feel like I ever had that close, tight-knit relationship with my mother like I should have. And I never really had that close relationship with my father either. And as much as I love my parents, I also had a lot of anger and animosity and still have a very, it's more like a sibling kind of relationship with them than it is a child to the parent. And I realize that I failed my daughter in so many ways. Having her in daycare, that in itself, there's a whole bunch of psychology behind that we could dive into on how that affects a child growing up when you put them in so young and you're not around. And I know that mothers have to work. I had to. I get that. So I know you have to pay bills. I know you have to run to and from school. And I know that you're doing all these things, making all these sacrifices, and you think that's right. And then meanwhile, your child is suffering. And it is so awful. It is awful. And I just think about this student and all of the things she's going to have to face. And I am just terrified for her. And not just her. There's a lot of students that I see who are seriously unable to manage being a parent and a student and working. And it's so sad how many of them are single mothers. I mean, there are so many single mothers out there. And it's heartbreaking. This isn't what God's design was. I can say that wholeheartedly. It was never meant to be this way. Women were not supposed to be the sole provider of their children and having to work and do all these hard things and then also raise their children. It's impossible to do it alone. It is impossible. And I'm not saying women shouldn't work. If there's someone who can stay home with the children, the father or whoever, someone to help raise the child, to be there for the child. And with my ex-husband, he didn't work while I was going to school and while I was working. And he was supposed to be taking care of my daughter. He was supposed to be doing those things, and he wasn't. He was doing drugs. He was lying to me. He was having affairs. He was doing all sorts of things behind my back. And my youth and my being naive and ignorant, and I was ignorant, it's a bad combination. And if you're not ready for a child, which, can we ever say that anybody's ever ready? Because there's just so many complexities that come with having children. But I feel so sad when I hear of these young women who are having babies, because I know how hard it is. I know it's going to be difficult, and I know that there's going to be a whole many things that comes with that down the road that you may have to struggle with. Right now, I'm dealing with my daughter being an addict, and she is, one minute she is in one state, the next minute she's in another state, and then she's living with some guy, I don't even know who he is, and then now she's back here again. You know, and it's like I have to put up boundaries with my own child. I have to put up, which I never thought I was ever going to have to do. And I have to put up these boundaries of, you cannot come in and out of my house whenever you want. You cannot bring strangers into my home around your little brother. You cannot smoke weed in my home in front of your brother. You cannot do these things. And then I'm watching my relationship with my own daughter deteriorate because she feels like I am too controlling, that I am cruel, that I'm this, that I'm that. And it is hard. It is the hardest thing to have to deal with. And I wish that I could say that I'm one of those happy stories where I was a young mom and I went to school and I put myself through all these things and I have a successful life now. But no, I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. I feel like there are so many things that I failed my daughter. And I feel like I should have picked better. I should have definitely been patient. I shouldn't have let myself feel pressure in my youth to be with some guy that was just a jerk. No matter how bad my school was. And you know, because my excuse for being with him was that I needed protection. And that's so sad. That's how ghetto my school was. My school was so ghetto that my older sister got jumped outside of a Walgreens. And my younger sister was bullied so badly she had to quit high school. And like, for me, it was no different, because if you're young and if you have any sort of beauty, you are just going to be targeted by girls. They're going to beat you up in the ghetto. I mean, if their boyfriend looks at you or anything, you're going to get beat up. So I picked the biggest guy I could find, and that was her father. And I was like, I'm safe for at least the next 4 years. And that was so stupid. In the long run, I think about how stupid it was, because I fell so hard for the very first person that I ever was with. I fell so hard, and I was so naive. I was so naive. I really truly believed in true love and falling in love and being with someone forever. And he was Catholic too. And you know what? I got married so young with him after I got pregnant because we were Catholic. And he didn't want to be her father. He did not want to settle down. He didn't want to. And so that led to abuse. That led to violence. That led to affairs. It led to all sorts of things. All sorts of things. And I stayed for 11 years, and it was so unhealthy. It was so awful. And when I did leave, my daughter was 5, almost 6 years old. And we experienced homelessness. We experienced, me being jobless many times, trying to find multiple different jobs. And there was so much temptation when I was younger for me to do things that I maybe shouldn't have ever even thought about, guys. And I thank God I never did. But yeah, I totally thought about selling myself. I totally thought about becoming a stripper. I thought about these things because I didn't know what to do. And don't even get me started about when I was pregnant as a teen, what people wanted me to do. I was constantly pressured to have an abortion. I was constantly pressured to give her up for adoption. And, there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe I should. Maybe I should. And the only thing that kept me from having an abortion or giving her up for adoption was this voice inside of me saying, no, that's wrong. This is your child. You have to take care of this child. This is your responsibility, right? And God would frown if you did this because I was raised believing that abortion was a mortal sin, right? So I did not do that. And now that my daughter is going through all the things that she's going through, I look back on all of the different things that I've done in my life and all of the different choices I had to make. And I think all the time, how could I have done this? How could I have done that? How could I? And for the rest of your life, you're going to beat yourself up as a parent. And you're going to have to live with all of these choices that you made. And you're going to have to learn how to forgive yourself. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with the fact that your child possibly hates you. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And not enough people talk about what it means when you become pregnant as a teen. Not enough people warn the youth about what is going to happen or what could happen. And it is terrifying. It's terrifying. And I think all the time about my daughter being out on the streets and about the things that she does and about the trouble she might get into and about the people she could possibly hurt. And I think I did this. I was part of this. And it's all rooted back to sin. It's all rooted back to sin. It's rooted back to the sin that happened in the first place for it to all happen. And I'm like, man, all because of, you can't control yourself and you're with someone and then you have a baby. It's like, I wish people understood the depth of what one act can do and how it can affect your life for the rest of your life. I mean, the rest of your life. I mean, well after the child is 18 years old. I mean, the rest of your life. Because just because my daughter is over 18, it does not mean that I stop loving her. Because I love her so much. I love her so much it hurts. And it is so hard to realize that as her mom, I failed her in many different ways. And that I can't ever take back the person I chose to be her father, who is absolutely MIA and just still on drugs and still doing whatever the heck he wants. And never, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I finished school. It doesn't matter that I got my own home and that I'm okay and that I have my husband and my son. It doesn't matter about all these accomplishments because in the long run, my child is still not where she needs to be. And for a mother, when you become a mother and when you love someone so much, the only thing that matters is that your children are okay. I could be okay all day long, and it still won't take away that constant pain of knowing that she's out there doing all these things that she shouldn't be doing. And I just wish that people understood, you know. And there's all these young moms out here I see, and they're so hopeful, and God bless them. I know that they have all these things that they want to do for their baby, and they have all these things that they want to accomplish, and they're like, I'm going to work past this, and you know, and I can't help but feel sad. And when my student told me that, I couldn't help but want to cry, because she's going to be in for a rude awakening. And I am worried about some of these girls, because I know how mature I was. I mean, I was different. I was really different. I was not a normal teenager. You know, I looked at teenagers and I thought, oh, these people are idiots. You know, and I thought I could never do some of the things they do, and I can't act like that. You know, I was very mature. But I see some of these people, and they're still so mentally not where they need to be. And I'm not sure if having a child is going to... Sometimes it does. Sometimes it kicks them in the butt, and they mature quickly, you know? But then sometimes not so much. Even me, as a young mother, there were still times when I wanted to go out and party with friends, and when I wanted to go do these things because I wanted to feel normal. Right? And I wish to God I never even thought about those things, because it wasn't worth it. It was never, ever worth it. Ever. Especially in my 20s. Oh gosh, it's horrible. And I'm kind of like, I don't even know, you know? But you get pulled into all these different pathways, and the world is constantly like glorifying this stuff. And it's not glorious in any way. It's not. Being a young mother is not... it's not something that I would ever suggest anybody do unless you're secure in a relationship where it's absolutely rooted in God. And for my husband, my ex-husband, and me, it was not rooted in God. It wasn't. It was rooted in all sorts of other things but that. And it's sad. It's really sad. So I really am so sad when I hear these things. And I wish that young people understood. I really wish that they understood the depth of their choices and all of the things that could happen. And this world, it pulls people, man. It does. It pulls them in all sorts of different directions. And there's so many things you got to worry about nowadays with children. You know, especially with social media and the way that the internet is, and they're at access to everything. They learn things that they shouldn't even know at all nowadays. And it's like, there's all these things you're going to be battling as a parent. And I cannot imagine. I can't imagine. I know how hard it was for me. And we barely had cell phones. You know, they were just coming out when I finished high school. And so I can't imagine what it's going to be like for this younger generation having children. Like, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And it is so sad. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I just had to rant about that because it's depressing. It's very sad. And I wish people would stop glorifying being a young mom or a teen mom. It's not glorious in any way. It is not magnificent or glorious. It's not some sort of wonderful miracle. It is all just, it's gonna, you know, And I'm not saying that children aren't a miracle, because they can be. But they grow up into adults. They become adults. They don't stay these little tiny babies forever. They don't stay these sweet little pure innocent little creatures forever. And they grow up and they become adults. And it's just awful, because it's a cycle. It's this vicious cycle of just more and more pain and suffering and sin. And it's awful. Man, it's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's just so sad. And then maybe that's not the correct response, you know, to say something like that. And I realize that, but gosh, I can't help it. I wish that there was a way to hook someone up to my experience and my pain and let them see, so that they knew not to make those choices. Don't do this because this is what could happen. This could happen to you. So don't do this. Just follow God and stay on that path. Just follow Him and do the right thing, and don't do those other things. Don't cave, because if you cave and you give away your innocence and your youth, you're never going to get it back, and you're going to be dealing with those choices that you made for the rest of your life. And I can't stress that enough, how difficult it's going to be. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that I'm not telling you that it's going to be rainbows and sunshine if you have a baby on the way and you're a young person. But, it's going to be hard. It's hard. And I just pray that if you are one of those people who's young or a teenager or whatever and you're having a baby, I pray that you realize the responsibility and the stress and the sacrifice and all of these things that are going to come with having a child. Because it is not something that is just easy peasy and that everything's going to be okay. It is hard work. It is suffering and pain and constant putting your ego aside, putting your wants, your needs, everything aside. It's sacrifice for the rest of your life, for the rest of your life.